And we're back. This time we're going to be looking at the Crime and Punishment expansion for Firefly the Game. It's another small cards only expansion, similar to Breaking Atmo. A little bit bigger box because we have some story cards and things in there as well. But this adds a new mechanic to the game with wanted tokens as well as the alert card system, and then a ton of Misbehave cards with the new mechanics in them. Anyway, we'll get right in and take a look. So the first thing we have is our little rules flyer here. Explains about the new alert cards and how they work, as well as the new wanted crew tokens, how they work, how they combine with the new Misbehave cards. And there's a few new mechanics that show up on these new Misbehave cards, so they're all explained in here. Pretty standard stuff there. Next we have the big cards. We got 2 new setup and 2 new scenario cards. And these all pertain to the new stuff that comes in this set. First one here we have is Wanted Men. This one starts everybody already with a warrant. You can't start in any of the Alliance space systems. And one of the Alliance alert cards is already going to be in play. We'll get to those in a minute. And then there's a few other special things that go with it. The next one's kind of an interesting one. This one's Smuggler's Blues. This one involves nobody starting with any of the initial jobs. Everybody starts on Londinium, and you put these 3 contraband on all of the Alliance space sectors. If you're using Blue Sun and Kalidasa, they tell you to put only 2 on each planet instead. And then you put money underneath the different contacts. And the goal is to go do a work action, Misbehave, to pick up those contraband from the planets, and then you deliver them to one of the contacts. When you've delivered at least 3 of the contraband to one of the contacts, you get the extra money from that. Some interesting new scenarios though. For the new setup, we have Clearer Skies, Better Days. This one starts with the reshuffle cards already in the deck. And when you're using a full burn, you can actually roll the die to see how many spaces you can go before you have to start drawing from the nav decks. This one combats a lot of people who don't like the whole move a space, draw a card, move a space, draw a card. It's kind of an interesting way to set up and play that doesn't make use of those. And then this one also doesn't let you use the Reaver or Alliance alert tokens, which some people don't like. It's pretty much to make the board clearer, make the game go faster. And we still use the brown coat way most of the time when we set up, but I see this possibly being used more for newer players, so you can use some of that new stuff without the tokens all over the board and without having to worry about drawing constantly from the nav deck. That really does slow down the game when you're playing with new people and you have to read every card. Once you've played a bunch and you're used to what the nav cards do, we move, draw, you can go through it real quick. When you're new, you move, draw a card, read it. Move, draw a card, read it. It does slow down the game a lot. So this is a really cool idea to speed that up. And last we have Alliance High Alert. This one starts the game again with one of the new alert cards already in play. Each alert card has different rules that will affect the players. Whenever a Misbehave card tells you to draw a new alert card, you just swap them out. So pretty much the same standard rules for those. And then your starting jobs, you don't get a job from Harkin because you're basically playing the bad guys. You get 3 starting jobs from any contact or combination of contacts. You can keep or discard those. So you don't have the normal where you draw extra and send some away. And then standard priming the pumps. It's another fun thing. It's basically a way to play using these alert cards, which honestly you don't need the special setup for that. You can just use these in any scenario basically. So next we have our Alliance alert cards. Not too many of them. I kind of wish there was more of a deck to have some more variety in them. But depending on the setup, some of these are going to start in play, or whenever certain Misbehaves come up, you're going to put one of these in play. And depending on what's up, different things are going to happen to your crew. That when you botch a job, you disgruntle your crew. If you have any warrants, you can't buy on Osiris or Persephone because they won't deal with you. Whenever you work an illegal job and you have a warrant, you have to misbehave an extra time. Lots of little things like that that are going to affect the way the game is played. And then certain misbehave cards are going to put a new alert in play. So whenever there's an alert in play and you get one of those, this goes to the bottom of the deck and you would flip the next one. And so on. So there's never more than one in play at a time. I don't think there's any special cards that put more into play. I could be wrong on that, but I haven't seen one yet. Anyway, they're just kind of a neat little thing. I see these getting used more than the bounty hunting cards. We don't use those too often because they're just an extra thing in there. We're not huge on PvP in my group either. These I see having a lot more impact in the game because it really can change your plan on what you want to do. I think there's one of them that makes it so you can't sell cargo. Yeah, you can't sell cargo to contacts. So that one popping up at the wrong time can completely screw someone's strategy. So, very interesting game-changing cards in there. And then lastly, we have our aim to misbehave cards, and there's a whole mess of these. I think there's almost as many, if not the same amount that was in the original game. All of them use some kind of new mechanic that's going to add to what's already there. We already talked about the ones that'll trigger your alert cards. There's also ones now that if you fail, see if I can find one here. This one, for instance, you have your two options like your original misbehave cards. This one you can buy stuff, but it botches your attempt. Good way to get some extra cargo. Here's the new mechanic here is that when you do this one, everybody on your crew is now going to be wanted. And then you have to roll to see if you can, get a warrant issued as well. There's also ones like this, where you can attempt to get this items up here at half price, but it botches your attempt. Or you draw another misbehave card and replace that one. These are the new mechanic here, where now instead of having an option 1 and option 2, you have to do both. So first you're going to have to complete this objective up here. If you fail, you're botched. If you continue, then you go to the next one, then you have to do the second one here, and you still have a chance of being botched or proceeding. And there's also these ones which are really cool and new. There's a fork in the road. You have to split your crew into 2 different teams. Draw a misbehave card for each of them. Your 2 teams have to complete both of those misbehave cards with the crew that you assign to each half, or the attempt is botched. And so on. There's some similar to things we've had before, but mostly lots of new stuff. These get mixed in with the current aim to misbehave cards, and it really just adds a lot more variety, which is kind of cool because a lot of those, you always end up drawing the same ones after a while. Maybe it's because we've been playing so long, but it is a decent sized deck, so now you're going to about double the amount of those. And then because of all of the new misbehave cards, you got another pile of warrant tokens, goals on the back. You're going to be using those because of all that fun misbehaving you're going to be doing. And then you're getting 24 of these wanted tokens. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough, especially if you're playing bigger games, so you may have to use something else to represent these. But we'll have to play a few more and see how that works out. But depending on the misbehave cards that come up, you may get wanted tokens put on your crew. These function exactly like the crew that already have the wanted stars on their cards, but these are placed on crewmen after, botch missions or things like that from the misbehave. And those crewmen, even if they don't have the wanted symbol on their card, are now treated as wanted. So that's pretty much it for the Crime and Punishment expansion. If you're a fan of Firefly, it's definitely worth investing a couple bucks in this. It's not an expensive pack. There isn't a total lot to it. The new scenario cards are kind of fun. The new setup card is really neat. The Alliance alert cards do add some new meat to the game, something new to contend with. And of course all the new Misbehave cards. The cool thing about these is that they're modular, just like Pirates and Bounty Hunters were. you can pick and choose. You can just put the Misbehave cards in. You don't have to use the Alliance Alert ones. Just be sure to go through and pull out the Misbehave cards that trigger the Alliance Alerts. Or you could use the Alliance Alert cards and not those. Just put in the Misbehave cards that have those in it. Or even just use a random one of these for the game without even messing with the new cards. You can use just the setups. It's really neat how the game's set up that way, so you can pick and choose what you want. Build your own scenarios. This gives you more options, and that's always a good thing. Like I said, if you're a fan of the game, you really can't go wrong adding this to it. Some of the bigger expansions, some people say, you know, Blue Sun and Kalidasa aren't totally worth it in some playgroups because the map gets so big, it takes up more space, the game takes longer. You don't always go to half of those border systems and things. So a lot of people like to stick with the core game. That's perfectly fine, but things like this can be added onto the core game and make that a whole new experience. So even if you don't own any of the other expansions, something like this can definitely add to it. I would recommend this, like I said, to anybody who's a fan of the game, as well as Breaking Atmo. Whether you play the other expansions or not, those two, the extra variety they add to the game, are well worth the cost. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.